Hello. Yes, I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me okay? Oh, okay. I'll try to turn it down. I don't know. Um, I'll mute myself. Could I please try just to share my screen just to be sure everything will work? Okay. Let me try to do this, and I'll just make sure it's going to work. Okay, and then this is good? Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Yes, of course. Not a problem. Not a problem. Okay. Very good. Okay, so I will stop sharing the screen. Here, stop presenting. Okay, good. Very good. Well, it seems like we're ready to go. Okay. Okay, I'll mute myself in case I'm too loud.
Prova, prova.
Cioè, sei andata alla fine.
Prova. Si sente? Si sente bene? Sì? Ok, perfetto. Iniziamo? Ok. So, let's start. And I'm delighted to welcome you to the 2024 summer meeting of the AGN Science Collaboration. Thank you very, very much to be here. And before starting the meeting, I would like to spend a few words to introduce Rini, but I cannot. Okay. So, the name Torino comes from Toro, bull, and Torino sounds like little bull. And you find a bull on the emblem of the Torino city, and also a head of a bull on the city fountain. They are called Tourette. And the symbol of Torino is the Mole Antonelliana, which is a very high building in the city center, which hosts the Museum of Cinema. And another iconic building is the Basilica di Superga, the big church on the Torino Hill that we also choose to for our poster, for the poster of the meeting. And it's in Baroque style, as many buildings in Torino. Torino is the capital of the Italian region called Piemonte in Italian, which means at the foot of the mountains, because as you saw, we are surrounded by mountains, by the Alps. And the symbol of Piemonte is the Sacra di San Michele, St. Michael Abbey, which was built in the 10th century, and it was of inspiration for the setting of the name of the rose. You may remember the star in the. A very, very brief outline of Torino's history. Torino was founded in the 3rd century before Christ by people called Taurini. In 218 before Christ, it was destroyed by Hannibal, the Carthaginian leader, who crossed the Alps with a lot of soldiers and elephants to go towards Rome to fight against Romans. And after Torino joined the Roman Empire and with the name Augusta Taurinorum, which means the great city of Taurinum, and you can still find Roman remains in the city as the Roman Porta Palatina, Palatine Gate. In the 10th century, the leadership of the Savoy family began. They will rule for about 10th century, and later they will also become kings of Italy. Our university was founded in 1404. Then we have centuries of battles against the French people, because France is very close by here. In 1861, we have the unification of Italy, which was led by the Savoy Kingdom. And in fact, Torino was the capital of Italy until 1865. In the late years of the Second World War, the people here made strong resistance and fight against fascism and Nazism. We call this movement Resistenza, and the partisans liberated Torino and Piemonte in April 1945. And in the 40s, I would like to remember the Grande Torino, which was an amazing football team. Unfortunately, all the players died in a plane crash against the Superga Hill in 1949. After the Second World War, in the 50s and the 60s, we had an economic boom due to the car factory Fiat, Fabbrica Italiana Automobili Torino, which is now part of the Stellantis group, and this attracted hundreds of thousands workers, mainly from the South Italy. Then we have decades of social and economic crisis, and also massive immigration, first from the Eastern Europe and then especially from Africa. And so Torino is now a multi-ethnic and multicultural city, many cities in Europe. And now Torino is focusing on culture and tourism. There are many things that you can see in Torino. For instance, the Egyptian Museum, which is the second in the world after that of Cairo in Egypt. Then you may have seen along the River Po the Borgo Medievale, which is the reconstruction of a medieval village and castle, and it is in the Valentino Park. The main church in Torino is the Duomo, which was built in the 15th century and hosts the Holy Shroud. And then we have a lot of palace, the Royal Palace, the Madonna Palace, the Carignano Palace. These are all in the city center. And Torino and in general Piedmont are known for, of course, mountains and winter sports. And we hosted the Winter Olympic and Paralympic Games in 2006. Then large part of Piemonte is covered by vineyards, and we produce a lot of wines, especially red wines. And among aromatic wines, you can find the Martini, which was founded in 1833 by Martini e Rossi. And we will visit the historical factory tomorrow evening. Then we are famous for chocolate, and the typical chocolate in Torino and Piemonte is gianduja, which is a mixture of chocolate with hazelnut crust, and there are little pieces of this chocolate called gianduiotti with a typical shape. And from gianduja came Nutella, nut Nutella, which was created 60 years ago by Ferrero. Then in the city center, you will find historical cafe. These are a couple of them, Caffè San Carlo in the San Carlo Square and Caffè Alpicerina. And in these old coffees, you can taste Picerina, which is a Piemontese word that can be translated in little glass. And you will have a mixture of chocolate, coffee, and milk cream. And finally, a slide to show you where we are. We are at the Planetarium of Torino, which opened in 2007. And here is and the planetarium is in the astronomical park. It's the territory of the Observatory of Torino. And sorry. Sorry for this. Okay. Also, one, two, and three buildings belong to the Torino Observatory, and then you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 domes. That one, which is closest to the planetarium, hosts the main telescope of the Torino Observatory, which has a size of 105 centimeter. It's called the Riosc because it was built by the Riosc firm in Paris. The Osservatorio Astrofisico di Torino dates back from 1759, And until 1911, it was located in the city center. Then it was moved here to find a better observing site. And it was an independent institute until 2001 when the National Institute of Astrophysics was founded. And so the Torino Observatory became one of the 16th enough branches. And so I think that now we can start the meeting. The first speaker is Niel, that is elected. Thank you. And Niel will talk about the
Yes.
AGILE science collaboration. Thank you, Niel.
Can you see my slides and hear me okay? Okay. Well, first of all, thanks to Claudia and all of our colleagues in Torino for hosting this meeting. And also my apologies that I can't be there in person. I certainly had planned to be, but the CrowdStrike problems led to the cancellation of my flight and many problems. So let me get started. So today I would like to review the 2024 state of the LSST AGN science collaboration. I will be focusing on our activities now recently, where we're less than 1 year, we hope, from actual Rubin operations. This is a quite recent photo, very beautiful, showing that the observatory is still being heavily worked on, but we hope things will be up and going in less than a year. So it's a very exciting time. And today, of course, I will only be hitting some of the recent highlights. So my apologies if your favorite activity personally is not covered in as much depth as you would like. But I am aiming here to give all attendees, including potential new members of the AGN Science Collaboration, a common broad understanding of what's going on in the AGN Science Collaboration. And of course, we are interested in the science collaboration of all aspects of active galactic nuclei, ranging from the immediate vicinity of the supermassive black hole out to the very largest scales of jets and so on, and of course, everything in between. So, the overall goals of the AGN Science collaboration are to maximize the AGN Science return of the LSST. An important connected aspect of that is to give feedback to the project that will allow and ensure excellent AGN science, and we've been actively doing that. And also, we'd like to and are educating the broader community about LSST AGN science so that more people can participate. As a very brief one-slide history, the AGN Science Collaboration has existed since fall 2006. Down here is one of the original phone con minutes showing when we were just getting started. And we have generally become progressively more organized over time, as one would expect. That being said, the AGN Science Collaboration has always been by design, and that goes back to very early founding documents of the science collaborations, going back to about 2005, shown over here. The AGN Science Collaboration has always been by design distinct from the project. That is, we have never, for example, received any direct funding from the project because the project has a very tight budget for construction and operations. And this has led, of course, to some problems keeping the AGN Science Collaboration, operating at the level of detail that we would like. We're all doing our best, but this is to a significant degree of volunteer effort. So please keep that in mind. We provide as many services as possible, but there are real financial challenges, at least in the U.S., in that respect. Regarding the current membership, we currently have 202 members of the AGN Science Collaboration. They are listed on the AGN Science Collaboration webpage, so you can see them there. We continue to rapidly grow. We grew by 12%, 24 members over the past year. We have 185 associate and 17 full and core members. And the 6 largest national memberships are listed in this table here. Italy is one of the largest members. I believe we currently have 15 Italian members of the AGN Science Collaboration. Membership applications are welcome, even from people who lack data rights. And you can read the application instructions at this webpage. That being said, the AGN Science Collaboration membership does not by itself provide data rights. That is handled through an in-kind process that I'll mention in a little more detail shortly. Here is the overall organization of the AGN Science Collaboration. This plot here is adapted from the AGN Science Collaboration Charter. There are two co-chairs, myself and Matthew Temple. There are then a number of operating panels that keep things like membership and publications and ethics and DEI and road mapping and funding reviews going along. And then there are a number of important science subgroups ranging from science platform support to selection and classification of AGNs to photometric redshifts and redshifts more generally, variability to follow up, and so on. And I've listed here many of the sort of leaders and coordinators of these various panels and subgroups. In addition, we have a number of other important operating aspects. There is a liaison to the very important Survey Cadence Optimization Committee. That's Franz Bauer. I will say more about that later on in this talk. We also then have members of the Users Committee. And this is a slide that Vincenzo Petrecca provided to me. And we have two members there, Vincenzo and also Vicky Giardini. And the Users Committee is providing important feedback about the Rubin data products and the science platform and is recommending improvements to the Rubin operations director. I won't go through all the details on this slide, but you're welcome to review it later on so you can be informed about what's going on our behalf in the Users Committee. We also then have this very important in-kind contribution process, which is the process by which people outside US and Chile and a couple of other more limited regions can obtain data rights and data access. Our current in-kind contribution representatives are Sebastian Honig and Aldo Kopi, and there are 5 in-kind projects ongoing in the science collaboration. They are listed here. Most of them are from Europe. We have one Canadian, and then also under evaluation, although I've heard they have just been accepted, is another project on VST monitoring of the LSST drilling fields by Maurizio Paolillo and colleagues. So we have a number of very active in-kind contributions playing critically important roles in the science collaboration. Those are much appreciated. We also have a roadmap which defines and prioritizes the AGN science collaboration activities needed to prepare for Rubin operations. And given again, we think we're less than 1 year away from operations now, work is ongoing to address many of the goals in this roadmap. So I encourage you, if you have not looked at it already, to become familiar with this roadmap document. I'd like now just to talk about, very briefly, some recent and ongoing activities of the science collaboration. We have a number of ways that the science collaboration is regularly communicating. We have monthly full AGN science collaboration telecons, and many of the subgroups now regularly have telecons as well. Members are surely welcome to join all of those. We have either remote or in-person meetings that have been held annually, including the one that's going on today. Those have been going on since 2020. And then we've had a couple of less regular ones as well, going back to 2017. Here's one of the first large meetings we ever had. This was held at one of the AAS meetings in the US and in Texas. Here is last year's meeting in Charlottesville, Virginia. And the 2020 to 2022 meetings were held over Zoom, and then the other ones have been in person. And I will mention, importantly, that the recordings for all of the meetings going back to 2020 all the way through 2023, and I believe that's also going to happen for the current meeting, are all recorded and are available on YouTube. That's a tremendously valuable source of information for new members of the science collaboration. There's 25 hours of material there that you can pick and choose from, to come up to speed if you're a new member and you want to know what is going on. That's a very valuable resource that I refer you to. We also, of course, have an email list. We're involved in the LSST community posting postings, and we have a Slack channel as well. So those are all the ways that you can become involved and communicate. Now, in terms of other activities, well, one of the things where the AGN Science Collaboration has genuinely played a leading role is in gathering and analyzing key data for LSST and multi-wavelength AGN studies. And you would expect that given the fundamentally multi-wavelength nature of active galaxies. It's very important. And so, as one example, the AGN Science Collaboration has played a genuinely leading role in getting X-ray and Spitzer and other multi-wavelength coverage of the important Rubin LSST deep drilling fields, or DDFs. We have obtained large amounts of X-ray data, for example, in the deep drilling fields. In these three deep drilling fields highlighted in yellow, Cosmos already had a great deal of X-ray coverage. And this would be a 5 million second multi-year heritage program of XMM Newton, where we now already have 10,200 X-ray validated AGNs in the deep drilling field, which will be extremely helpful for AGN studies once Rubin begins operation. There also are extensive data from Spitzer gathered by Mark Lacey and colleagues. Here is just a plot showing the Chandra Deep Field South region and its Spitzer coverage. And this is a very impressive Spitzer survey just on its own merit compared to all the other Spitzer surveys that have been conducted. There's a lot of other AGN selection that has been ongoing in the deep drilling fields using fitting of spectral energy distributions, which allows selection of active galaxies and also allows measurements of stellar masses and star formation rates of AGN host galaxies. And that's, again, going to be extremely valuable once Rubin begins operations. And then there are ongoing efforts to select AGNs, for example, in the radio band. We now have 6,800 radio AGNs selected. And most of these, importantly, are not X-ray AGNs or not mid-infrared AGNs either. So this is a distinct AGN population. Many of these have already been published in this paper by Shifei Zhu. Another paper is currently submitted by Zhang et al. And this again will be an extremely valuable resource. So we now are getting up to, pushing 20,000 or so AGNs in the deep drilling field. And there are also a number of more than 10 now science-driven papers with more on the way, with many useful publicly available data products that people can use to get ready for this type of AGN science. Then more broadly, we have run a data challenge. This was a while back now in 2021, led by Gordon Richards and Weixiang. And this was, again, part of a general effort to prepare students and postdocs and others for LSST AGN science. And I refer you to this paper for more information about that. And just coming to the end here, we have the AGN science collaboration also playing a very important role in this critical survey cadence optimization process, whereby the Rubin cadence is being set. And it's very important that people participate in this now and on an ongoing way, because this is going to set what the cadence will be and what AGN science, particularly in the variability regime, we're going to be able to do. If you want to know more about what's going on, I refer you to the Stocks webpage, which has a number of recommendations which have already been set as to what the cadence is going to be. These are very important documents to be reviewing and to know about for planning your science. They're going to be essential, of course, for many AGN science cases. And we have, as a science collaboration, delivered 4 journal articles shown here. With ideas of what would be valuable in terms of the LSST cadences for various AGN projects. We also have submitted 8, here are 6 of the abstracts, cadence notes again, indicating what we need in terms of cadence for the AGN science that we want to do. But it's very important that we continue participating in this cadence process. Again, this can be done with feedback to Franz Bauer, which continues, and I encourage people to communicate with Franz Bauer about your needs so we get what we require to do the science we want to do, and also to the DDF Cadence Task Force more generally. And there are a set of survey cadence optimization committee and science collaboration workshops that I encourage people to participate in. So again, you get the cadence that you're going to need. We continue working through new operation simulations to assess how these will allow the AGN science to be achieved. So please, by all means, give that a try if you have not already. And we continue coordinating with other science collaborations to try to push for mutually acceptable cadence solutions. For example, we've had very productive discussions over the years with the dark energy science collaboration, which is very influential in setting the cadences. And just then to end, I will mention we have a number of other recent activities. We have several members of the important Rubin Euclid-derived data projects working group, making sure that's going well. We have many members involved in the data previews with Rubin. We are presently updating the charter and the publication policies. There is an ongoing demographic census that is in its late stages of planning and will be coming out shortly, I believe. And we are coordinating with other AGN projects on reverberation mapping and X-ray missions and things like that. And we also regularly give talks worldwide highlighting LSST AGN science. Here are just a few of the recent ones. We are happy to present the AGN science collaboration activities to institutes worldwide. If that's helpful at your institute, let us know. And we also have a number of relevant outreach activities trying to get new people involved in learning about Rubin. And this ranges from high school teachers through to young scientists, through to scientists, for example, in Ethiopia that would like to get involved. And I will wrap up there, and thank you for your time. And I'm happy to take questions, but I'm not able to see the room. So if someone could help me, please, so I know what questions to address, that would be much appreciated.
Thank you very much. Other question? Neil, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you just
Okay,
fine, but you're going to have to guide me because I can't see anything else.
Yeah. So, are there Neil? Okay. So, Claudio is asking you.
Yeah, so I Neil, just I have
Hi.
a science question concerning some of the things you were saying. But you were mentioning radio selection. I don't know if you can expand a little bit about what's been done and what sort of AGN you expect to be finding.
Yes. Sorry, I had to go through that very quickly. So yes, we have been doing radio-based selection of AGNs. There are several methods that have been used for that. And here we, as data sources, we have been utilizing, high-quality radio data gathered, for example, by the Atlas survey, by the Mighty survey, and by another VLA survey in XMLSS. And then we have been utilizing, for example, a combination of radio morphologies, radio spectral indices, and also radio excesses via this QIR parameter to select radio AGNs. Here, this plot that I'm showing specifically, and I'm sorry I went through this very quickly, just shows, for example, a comparison of the 1.4 gigahertz flux to the MIPS 24 micron flux. These are two of the things that go into the radio excess parameter, and the sources lying up here are the ones that are identified as being AGN. And so that's the basic sort of methodologies that we're using. And again, via those methods, in particular, via refinements of those methods, we have already published, publicly available and published more than 1,000 in this paper by Shifuju et al. And I encourage you to download that paper, and you can read all about the details there. And then another paper is currently submitted that increases the sample size by about a factor of 3 to 4 or so, led by Bongiorno. And again, importantly, many of these radio AGNs, as you can see from this little Venn diagram here, are distinct from the X-ray AGN and the mid-infrared AGN. So we're trying to get as complete a sampling of the AGN population as possible. Now, I will say that many of these radio AGNs have spectral energy distributions, and we've measured their spectral energy distributions from the spectral energy distribution fitting that I was discussing over here. Many of the radio AGNs, as you would expect, are galaxy-dominated systems, for example, in the optical and through much of the infrared. These would be examples of the so-called radio LERGs, okay, the low excitation radio galaxy systems. And so many of these probably are not going to have a whole lot going on in the optical with Rubin, but we'll have to find out about that. But nevertheless, we're trying to get as complete a radio sampling of the AGN population as possible. And this will continue to improve as, for example, more of the MIGHTY data become publicly available and so on. But the current data are already deep enough, even without MIGHTY, to sample deeply down into the radio population, and going a lot deeper in the radio, we do not think is going to lead to a dramatic increase in sample size, because we're already pushing down to the galaxy population. So hopefully that's addressing, and I'm happy to take any follow-ups on that if that can be useful.
Okay. Okay.
Hey, thanks, Neil. I'm James Chan. I'm from New York. I have a question is, okay, so now we have a lot of like AGN science, but do we have some, if we're working on combining with gravitational lensing, for example, using a strong lens quasar, or adding some micro lensing effect to study the inner structure of AGN? Thank you.
Yes, 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 yes. So yes, there are a number of folks in the science collaboration who are very interested in lensing and micro lensing. In fact, there's a number of, and there is of course a strong lensing science collaboration group, and there are many joint members. I don't know many, but there is a handful of joint members of our science collaboration, and that one certainly aiming to investigate strongly lensed AGNs. And if you have interest in that, I'm happy to send you some more information. I know the relevant folks doing it. I have a couple of slides on that in another talk. I'm happy to provide those to you, and I'm happy to put you in touch with a couple of the people that are very interested in doing strong lens AGNs. So yeah, there's a great deal of interest there on the micro lensing side, as well as just on selecting large numbers of AGNs. And again, I don't have the numbers at the tip of my tongue, but it's several thousand strongly lensed AGNs that are expected. And so there will be a great need for monitoring of microlensing events that are found in all those strongly lensed AGNs. And again, I'll try to provide you with more information if you just drop me an email.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And again, my apologies, I can't be there. I very much wish I could have.
We
Yes.
appreciate you are here. And
Yes.
please follow. Oh. So let's continue with an update on the AGN science collaboration subgroup activities, and I call Amy and Weixiang for an update on the variability subgroup.
All right. Hi, everyone. So we're going to just talk a little bit about what's going on in the first few months as co-chairs of the AGN variability subgroup. So, okay. Yeah. So, right. We're going to just talk about we kind of started out the subgroup by just taking a survey to see what members were interested in. And so we're just going to briefly talk about that. And then we'll talk about kind of the projects and needs and action items that we have based on that survey. And then we're going to talk, and also some crossovers between the different projects, and also that might apply more broadly to the AGN Science Collaboration as a whole. And then we'll just talk about what we want to do next. So we took a survey, we polled everyone in the variability group. We had, I think, a pretty good response, right? Like, yeah, so pretty good response. And right, this is just a little bar chart of what we found. People were most interested specifically in the variability subgroup. And so from here, we kind of were able to identify kind of 4 main categories of interest, that being red noise variability, which includes color variability, selection via variability, kind of the mass spectrum of variability from intermediate mass black holes to supermassive black holes. Lag measurements was the second big group, then AGN, which we combined with other kinds of nuclear transients like TDEs, for example, and then binary supermassive black holes, including ties to multi-messenger. So what we did is we divided the subgroup into these 4 different categories and had breakout rooms that were Zoom meeting. And I'll talk about that in just a second. But first, I'll just quickly, one thing we wanted to do in our survey and what we want to do in our subgroup is kind of talk about what are the attack items we want to do for the data previews, and then for the first data release. Really just trying to be active, in the first year of Rubin operations. And so, mostly for the data previews, we'll be mostly doing testing sort of work and asked people what they were interested in testing, interest in how well difference imaging is going to work for AGN science, understanding the noise, testing and upgrading our software, uh, right, comparing to previous data in the deep drilling field, and AGN variability characterization. And then, we can do some early science, continued time delay for some objects in the deep drilling field, short timescale variability, changing look AGN candidates, and then also already thinking about how we can combine that data with other data sets. But mostly, right, the science would really start with the first data release, which will have 8 to 10 months of data, and we kind of identify different things that people wanted to do, again, based on these 4 different groups, right? But, a lot of testing algorithms, developing algorithms for, and then identifying some of these more transients or supermassive black hole binaries, these sorts of things. So I breezed through that because I mostly want to focus on what came out of our actual discussions. But we also asked, right, how can our subgroup assist you in achieving your science goals, right? And right, a big thing that we want to do is we want to share ideas and work together on related projects. We want to be ready to be efficient once LSST data is available. We want to make sure we have the computational resources for all the exciting things we're talking about. And then, right, also, how can we connect spectrometry and also spectroscopy, multi-messenger astronomy facilities, right, with LSST? And, also, can we make a connection between observers and theorists through working in this subgroup? So again, right, these are the 4 breakout rooms that we had over 2 consecutive subgroup meetings. And so we'll just talk a little bit about what we discussed, what kind of some of the projects that we came up with in these meetings that we want to start to execute going forward. So one of our groups was the lag measurement group. And a big concern is developing scalable methods and codes for performing lag measurements. So, there are a good number of machine learning methods for doing these lag measurements, but some of them, but some of our best techniques are not going to be feasible to use on thousands of agent light curves, which we'll be able to get with LSST. And so, you know, we have now new machine learning methods that are more scalable. But then another, and I'll talk about this in a second, but what is the training data we're using for these? And then one thing that we talked about is, people develop these codes. Sometimes they leave the field afterwards, and so you have these codes sitting around that are hard for us to use because they're not being maintained. And so one thing we talked about maybe we can do as a subgroup is pick one or two codes that we can develop ourselves or that have already been developed that we can become experts on, we can maintain, and that can be a real service that we can use within the LSST agent community where, we have, as we have new members, we can onboard them onto this code that we maintain and kind of internal support system for these lag measurement codes. So yeah, related to that is that we want a collection of light curves that can be used to test different methods and train methods. So can we come up with a testing set? A big interest is, can we compare, different codes, right? Can we do kind of a data challenge with different lag measurement codes? But can we have a standard set? And so we discussed maybe ETF is a good analogy to LSST because it has multi-wave band optical light curves with, nearly nightly cadence. It's also ground-based, so it'll have seasonal gaps. So that's an idea. Also, how do we generate mock light curves that we use to test our data? Can we have, one set of mock light curves so that, again, we're comparing apples to apples? Then also, right, we can test our broad line reverberation mapping using current spectroscopy. Again, if right, because we're testing our photometric broadline reverberation mapping tools. Can we compare them to spectroscopy? Um, and then also, right, and there's been some work that I'm sure we're going to hear about already done on this, but right, can we understand, right, the redshift range, luminosity, black hole mass, what is, the cadence, what kind of lag do we expect to be able to detect, again, at different redshift? And then finally, can we work together on spectroscopic follow-up? So these are some of the ideas that we can now try and execute. And then I'll just talk about a second of our little breakout rooms, which was supermassive black hole. And so, right, there's a lot of talk in that group about, right, simulate realistic light curves for binary systems and model these light curves. And then do we have methods for breaking the degeneracy between red noise variability and binary signatures? And then also, pipelines for detecting signatures of binaries. And, how can we relate it to other observatories? All right, I'm going to pass the mic off.
I just have 4 slides left. Right. So the first. Next. All right. I gotta quickly go over the red noise variability discussion. So one thing people think will be really valuable to do is come up with a catalog of known AGNs that also has well measured properties like curves. So when the data actually went out and really test, or start to understand probe the properties, correlations between the variability properties and other physical properties, help develop selection algorithms that will enable more for like future data release. Other things include a compilation of different methods, tools that people are using to categorize red noise variability. For example, PSDs, process modeling, or you want to use, let's say, structure functions, at least a list of different methods, methodologies, like who's working on what. In addition to that, it will be good if we can come up with one software that does all of those. So when data comes out, we can do the side-by-side comparisons to quickly do the analysis. And more on the nuclear transient side, if you worries the most or thinks the most important thing to do is to start to learn about how can we identify changing locations with other nuclear transients using the alerts, right? We need to understand what current status of different alert brokers. How can we implement some classification algorithms using the alert brokers? And very importantly, we need non-liker to be able to sufficiently identify real changing log agents, not those that was just due to random or intrinsic Reynolds variability. So simulations to understand how well we can actually select those things, some classification algorithms. Once we have a lot of candidates, right? Which one should we follow up? How often should we follow up? And how soon should we follow up? There are all the questions we need to address to increase our spectroscopic resources. And other things, including how do we deal with host gas contaminations in the templates. First year the templates is going to be great. Considering that, how do we quickly find agents? Those data. So okay, and if you follow with the 4 different science interest groups, we see there's a lot of crossovers that is essential to all science interests. We need some kind of training set, right? Either it's just real data or simulated data to help us understand how well we can do the science we want to do. And secondly, methods to generate best light curves, right? Given the variability, can we recover them accurately, right? Different imaging photometry or PSF, active photometry, we have basically no understanding of which one is the best and what circumstances. Those are a lot we need to figure out, and extended light curves is central to a lot of science interests: selection, Reynolds variability characterization, nuclear transient detection. So like pipelines, right? Automatic pipelines to classify stuff or detect periodicities, light curves. Lastly, really long light curves. I think there's lacking of those for both. For example, simulating legs that is both long and short, simulating light curves coming from supermassive black hole boundaries. So apparently these things are essential to many different science interests, and that will be good. If we add those together, right? And next time for next steps that we're thinking about is based on those crossovers, identify a few action items that we can actually act on as a group, and also like publications that will actually resulting from those action items. That will be very encouraging to give incentive to people to actually work on it. And also connect people with similar interests, right? So a lot of people come in, they want to find people who share their interests, and probably we're also going to share some expertise, experience, etc. That's all we have for the variability section. Thank you. Sorry, one last thing. We are actually seeking comments from all of you. So if you think there's something we need to be done within the group, or you have some comments, like, okay, I'd like to see this happening within this subgroup, send those Amy and I emails. I think we're also going to planning on create a survey or some kind of way you can send us comments, right? So we like to make this more inclusive and push things forward. All right, thank you.
On the LSST Slack.
Thank you very much.
Subgroup channel on Slack too.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Are there questions?
I have a comment. I'm part of the group, so of course we discussed this. But I was thinking now that also a lot of the work that you showed that we intend to do as a group, building up repository and so on, should somehow be motivated. So if we come up with a policy of acknowledging or including people that works actively on that in the future publication, that will really motivate, especially younger people, to do some of the work for benefit of everybody.
Thank you.
I guess just firstly to follow up on that, thank you, Maurizio. It's something that Chris on the publications panel and I were chatting about just now. I think it's something we'd like to discuss this week and later on. So yes, we definitely talk about this week. And my question to Amy and Weixiang, I mean, first of all, it's still fantastic. Thank you very much for everything you've done within the past, was it 2 months, 3 months? It's incredible how much is going on in the subgroup now. So my question is, you had a lot of points about developing pipelines or software or algorithms, and I just wanted to, I guess, I don't know, I'm guessing, I would say that most people in science collaboration identify themselves as astronomers or scientists first and foremost, and software engineers second. And so I believe it's true to say there is some directable software from the in-kind contributions outside the LSST AGILE science collaboration. So more general project-wide, there is still some software effort that we could apply for and ask to be using if we have specific projects that need some extra expertise on the software side. Then we should think about how we can propose that. And the scientists, as scientists, we can be thinking about science, but if we've got software problems to solve, we can also be applying for help from the in-kind contributions around the world. So that was a million question. Would that be useful? Is that a question?
Thank you. Hey, thanks for this very nice presentation. So one question about the connection with brokers. As you know, I'm part of Alerce. So what are the plans? Are you planning to contact brokers, or are you planning to create models and ask them to put them into production in their plans?
I think it is, we haven't actually carried out the discussions yet, but I think that's what people are interested in. So how are we going to implement the connection with brokers is a question to all of us, right? I think once we have, have a better action items, if that's one of those, we're going to organize people to start more discussions. How do we going to connect with brokers? What we need to do for that specific action item, right? So I think we all should think about it, not just me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very useful resource. But we also have students that have been showing up to the subgroup meetings who are actively developing different codes. I'm sure we're going to hear about some of them, and so and maybe we can talk to those students and see how they're collaborating with some of the software engineers that we have available. But so yeah, I mean, I do think we also have resources in the subgroup of people who are, developing this expertise in software as well. So how can we use that, but then also partner is a good question.
Thank you again. We thank again Annie and Weixiang. And now Claudio will talk about the follow-up.
Thanks, Claudia. So on I don't really have that much to talk about because we are just starting activities. So I'm Claudio Ricci, and this is working group, the follow-up one that I recently started co-leading together with Bindu Rani. So we are just starting now. We are going to have our first telecon just next week. So I hope many of you will be able to join. The idea is to start with monthly telecons, following the same pattern as for other working groups. And we want to devote these telecons to start thinking critically about proposals and possible TOs, which may be slightly early, but it's good to start arranging timelines and to start thinking critically in what sort of wavelengths we want to go, and maybe to divide the group in different based on different interests and wavelength for following up interest in the transient. So this being said, actually there is a lot of overlap with what we just heard, particularly for the transient side of the variability group. So it would be great to use this occasion in this meeting also to talk more about this. We are also going to have some invited presentations I will mention a little bit later. And we started with a little tool to understand the scientific interest of the people in the working group. And the idea is that we would use this to divide the group into smaller focus teams. So one of the things we asked in the poll was like, what do you think the goals of this particular sub-working group should be? And these are some of the answers. Develop and coordinate multi-wavelength follow-up strategies, which I think it's going to be very critical to maximize the scientific output of LSST data. Follow up new AGN transients and maybe coordinate with brokers. Pooling internal and external resources such as telescope time, telescope data access for spectroscopic and photometric follow-up, and also to assemble a multi-wavelength database, which is particularly important for surveys. So one good thing is that we seem to have a wide array of interest in terms of wavelengths within working. So I think we cover most of the different energy bands. And also people seem enthusiastic about a large number of different topics, going from transient, accretion physics, lasers, TDs, although I think there is a specific working group for that. But, there is going to be a lot of interesting stuff going on. So I guess cheese for everybody in a way. Continuum broad line region variability, reverberation mapping, galaxy cluster, and redshift AGN and functions. So certainly those are all things that we keep in mind when we start our activities. In terms of proposals and data and things that we want to do, I think one basic idea might be to divide our strategies into two directions. The first one would be associated to AGN surveys and demographics, for which we want to have multi-wavelength follow-ups of new sources, but also like to cross-match with existing data to look for objects AGN that we know will be detected by LSST. And I think, as Niel showed earlier, there have been quite a few works already on this. So there is some literature that we need to start digging in. In terms of the other branch, I would say, of this working group, which is more related to transient AGN and variability events, I think there is a lot of work that needs to be done to coordinating multi-wavelength TO proposals. And maybe also think about, this is something that I think it's important, to start monitoring, or at least, for example, optical spectra of objects that we think might be interesting in the future. So almost AGN, which might undergo more likely variability episodes. So this is something that we should start thinking about. So for which obviously any input is greatly appreciated. In terms of proposals, I think two things that come to mind already are that SDSS5 is looking for fiber proposals. So there is no real deadline for this, and I would like to start discussing this within the working group because it might be interesting to target some of the already known AGN that are known to show variability, and that maybe might be interesting for which might be interesting to have some archival spectra because things might become interesting after LSST starts operation. And the other thing that I think we should think quite a bit about is the call for blue sky ideas, which is by SDSS, and the idea here is to build strategies for what I guess would be SDSS 6. And one of the ideas, of course, is to monitor, follow up with SDSS newly detected AGN transients, for example, or to study newly detected AGN. So this is something that I think we will discuss during our first telecon next week. There is a call for ideas, which means that they are looking for white papers at the moment, 2 to 4 pages. So it might be interesting to put something in and to see whether this gains interest from the community. In terms of invited presentations, with Bindu, we were thinking to ask several of the members that of the that are involved also in other surveys and collaboration, but at the same time also maybe to get some external researchers. We have been collecting some names, and of course we welcome more suggestions. And the idea is to cover a very wide range of wavelengths that go from the radio to the gamma rays. And so this brings me to my last slide, which is what are the goals for the first 6 months of this sub-working group. Certainly, we will start having these regular telecons, and I think we will start focusing on proposals preparation, estimating also timelines in order to be ready even in 6 months, 1 year from now, to submit other proposal that will be useful for the working group and to exploit LSST data. And at the same time, I think we will need to start looking very carefully into archival data that are already available. And
Thank you very much to Claudio. Are there questions? Not
Thank you, Claudia, very much for the nice overview, and I'm happy that you have such a big plans for this group. And I wanted to ask you and comment, and I see Paula also raised her hand. Probably it's a similar question about the interaction with the brokers. I think we are. We should maybe put a little bit of focus on that aspect as well, because of the selection of interesting targets and the classification of interesting targets, and in that direction, I mean, if you can just share your thoughts. What have you been thinking? What steps to take?
Yeah, no, this is certainly something important. I'm not entirely sure how to proceed at the moment with this. I think it will be clearly fundamental to brokers, well, to maximize, well, let's say to basically be sure that we are selecting the most interesting targets because resources are going to be limited. But this is something that I think we should discuss more during the telecons. So it's a great starting point to get the discussion going.
Thanks, Claudio. 90% of the work that we do is based on redshifts and SED fitting. And for everything, we need near infrared and mid-infrared photometry. And we have already an incredible amount of data from WISE, WISE, all the WISE. So I think that the first proposal should be from American side to write an ADAP ROSE NASA proposal to develop tools that manage to get the development of the legacy Salve DR10 like tool that is already on the GitHub, make it optimized for LSST. Because without those data, we can have plenty of projects we have in mind, but you're going to get a Redshift one by one of these other proposals. We need the population study, so we need to have those data in place. As moved to wavelengths, we have to add those data in. We need to work with the spherics people to get a narrow band mid-infrared photometry. So we should already start to act now to make sure that those data are there as soon as our data comes. What do you think?
I cannot not agree with your wisdom. But yeah, no, actually, I was just last week at COSPER, I was sharing some of these tools with somebody from the SPEDS. So there is certainly a lot of overlap. In terms of writing out a proposal, well, we need to find volunteers. But certainly what you say, it's a strong motivation. This is something that we need to do. Yeah. Yeah.
And okay.
Thanks. My comment was actually about something else, but thanks, Dragan. So just a reminder that since next year at ISO, the calls will be yearly calls, not semester by semester. So we need to start thinking soon for proposed. I think we want to have something for the first years of LSST. It's not exactly known when it will start, but it's going to be probably September next year. So yeah, if you want to submit a large program for TO, we should start working on that now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think like the key point here will be manpower and the number of people that are willing to put in. Hmm? Sorry, okay, person power. No, you're right. Yeah, my bad. But yeah, so we need the people who are willing to put in some work, and there is going to be a lot of work for everyone. So please join the working group, the sub working group, and you know, help out.
Okay.
Just a quick comment on the results that you show. That what wavelengths are you mostly interested in? And I'm a little bit surprised to see that no one selected the millimeter with ARMA running for 10 years. So you showed a plot showing that what wavelengths are you mostly interested in this plot? Yeah. And no one voted for millimeter. This is for gamma ray, right? Okay. 11% for gamma ray, but millimeter.
I'm certainly interested in them.
Yeah, so just think maybe need some people from ARMA side working on ARMA stuffs.
Yeah, and
Okay.
There will be relatively large scale, large surveys. Thinking about SICAT prime, starting in few years, which will be relatively shallow, but at the same time will allow to detect, possibly to detect AGN in the southern sky.
Okay, I think we must move on because we are a bit late. So I call, thanks again, Claudio. And I call Jose to talk about LSST at Europe 6.
Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Jose Acosta. I'm coming from Instituto de Astrofísica de Canarias in Spain. Today I will present the next conference, which will be happening in September, next September in La Palma. I will talk a little bit about the place now. Okay. La Palma was in the news recently because we have a volcano. It was a recent and very spectacular eruption. And the volcano is named now Tajo Gaite. It's a local name from the place where it was erupted. And it erupted in September 2021. It lasted for about 3 months, which were very, very long for the people living there. You can see that there was a lot of disaster. Many houses were destroyed. And in the right, you can see the aspect of the volcano now is off. So there is some smoke on the top, but nothing else. No earthquake, nothing. So it's very quiet. La Palma is one of the Canary Islands. It's one of the western island. We are very close to the North African coast. Well, not La Palma, but the Canary Islands themselves. We are part of Spain. And La Palma orographically has a well-known characteristic feature, which is the Caldera de Taburete. Caldera de Taburete is a big depression, something like 30 kilometers diameter. And in the rim of La Caldera is located the Observatorio Roque Los Muchachos. It's at 2,400 meter high. And there we have these facilities, which I will describe briefly each of them. Starting from the smallest one, we have the Liverpool telescope, which is a British telescope. Is a fully robotic telescope. It's 2.5 meter diameter. Next in the size is the Nordical optical telescope, which is hosted by which is owned by the Nordic countries. And the next one is the Telescopio Nazionale Galileo, owned by the Italian. The next one is the William Herschel, which is the 4-meter telescope, and it's owned by 3 countries, the UK, Spain, and Netherlands. And then is the GTC, which is the king of the mountain, which is owned by Spain. Most of the is 80% is belongs to Spain, 10% to University of Florida, and 10% to UNAM in Mexico. Going to the mode we can offer to for observation, we have well split into range, optical range, and infrared range. Regarding the optical range, we have imaging in almost every telescope. You can see that in the William Herschel there is only spectroscopy because William Herschel has been dedicated from 3 or 4 or 5 years ago to a single instrument, which is WIMP, and you can do only in the integral spectroscopy there. Regarding spectroscopy, you can do spectroscopy in all of them. Regarding low and mid resolution, high resolution, I intend something like 100,000 resolution, which is available on the TNG with apps and FIES that not telescope. In the near infrared, we have also instrumentation. In the GTC is EMIR. It will be FRIDA in the next year, and EMIR is operating in mode, in limited mode. But we have also an optical model which has been recently tested and it will be commissioned. In the near infrared also there's possibility to observe with the TNG and with the NOT, and also with the robotic mode. Okay, going to the very high energy, we have also the MAGIC telescope, which usually, well, there are 2 units of the telescope which operate usually in stereo mode. And now there is a new incorporation, which is the LST, the large size telescope. There is 1 unit operating already and producing signs, and there will be 3 more of the same size in the future. I mean, I have seen the picture, the recent picture, and everything is going very well. And for the end of the year, probably they will have the mirrors in the structure, and they will be start to do operation. Well, okay. Going to the conference itself, the conference is scheduled during the whole week. There are some activities, external activities. There is a visit to the volcano. There is a visit to the observatories, and there are also different sessions, which I will enumerate briefly here. The conference is organized into plenary sessions and parallel sessions. In the plenary session, there will be some talks about construction progress, the status report, the Discovery Alliance, the collaboration with Euclid, and there will be also some talks about contribution. For the IAC, what is offered is the GTC observing time, and there will be also some talk about inclusive center. Regarding the parallel sessions, there will be talks about the science collaboration. The different collaboration has different number of sessions. For galaxies and transit, there will be 3 different sessions. And there is 1 session for AGILE, and there will be also some parallel session about the tutorial, one dedicated to elaboration of GTC proposal, how to access to GTC time. And there will be also a tutorial about Rubin Science platform. Here is the list of the very interesting talk in the AGM parallel session. I remark that will be reviewed by Niel, and there is an invited talk by Bindu. Okay, you can read them. I guess some people are here in the audience, so maybe they will give a similar talk or new results. Okay, I invite you all to come to La Palma. It's a very nice place. Interesting that you can spend a few days more there doing some tours. The weather is fine. It's very nice during summertime and during September. So there are still time to register, so you can register either online or in person. I guess to go in person now is a little bit late. I guess I admit that it's very expensive to reach there for you. Canadians will have different fares. Okay, so if you want are interested in someone you are not yet registered, you want to have a look on the webpage. And that's all. Thanks for the attention.
Thank you very much, Jose. Questions for Jose? Okay. If not, maybe I can call Angela, who will speak about. Ok,
È troppo difficile, è troppo lungo.
I think you can hear me even without microphone. No, it's better. Okay. Okay, no, penso che vado di... Okay, thanks a lot. Yes, I will give an update on one of the enough in kind contribution on creating the realistic LSST metric catalog with AGN. So I have to say, first of all, that most of the work is done by Akke, which is a postdoc at Observatory of Rome, with a massive help from Ivano Saccheo, a PhD student from Roma Tre University, which is here, and of course the collaboration and the input from a lot of people from the science collaboration that has been very helpful. So the reason we decided to start this simulation, I don't have to tell you, it's because in the DP0 there are no AGN, and so we wanted to have something similar to DP0 but with AGN to really get ready when the data will arrive. And so we created AGILE, which is stands for AGN in the LSST era. AGILE is a pipeline that I will summarize everything in this slide. So if you want to switch to your own business, you can do it. Just listen to this slide. So basically what we do is we create the galaxy catalogs, and then we populate galaxies with AGN. Then we add stars, and all of this goes in what we call the truth catalog. So the truth catalog is basically a mock. It's nothing more than a mock. There are many in literature. It's nothing specific for LSST, so you can use it for any survey if you want to do other prediction. And this is a static catalog in the sense that it's not changing with time. Then to make it LSST useful, let's say, we need to add time, okay? So that we need to add variability. And so we add variability for stars and AGN, and then we create what we call an instant truth catalog. And the instant truth catalog, it's still a mock, but changes with time, okay? So depending when you query, you will obtain a different mock. And finally, this will go inside, is used as input to create images using SIM, where we finally put LSST. So at this point, this simulation becomes LSST specific. So we put the cadence, we put the baseline, so we tell exactly how the telescope is moving, the rotation, the moon position, the band, the exposure time, and everything. And so we create images that now are really LSST-like. And then, of course, we reduce the data and run the pipeline, the LSST pipeline. So we create the final product that is a photometric catalog. So now we are not talking about the mock anymore. It's still, let's say, realistic, not real, of course. It's still simulated, but you will have real errors, real observations. Okay, that's it. So you can switch to your business. I will go into details for people that want to listen. So let's go a bit more in the details. So for the galaxy simulation, we are using this software from Current and Schreiber, so it's not our own work. It's an empirical galaxy generator. You just input the initial mass function, and through a series of steps, you end up with the catalog, which has positions, the physical properties of the galaxies, and then you can decide, of course, you have an STD, so you can decide which magnitudes and fluxes you want, the bands you want. And then the critical point is to associate galaxies to this, associate AGN to these galaxies. And we have used the recent work from the Zhou and the collaborators, where basically they studied using a very large sample of AGN and galaxies. They studied what is called the P of lambda. This is basically a probability density of a galaxy which has a given stellar mass and redshift to host a given AGN with a given LX and Eddington ratio. So given, and this work is actually done for quiescent and subforming separately. So basically for every galaxy in the catalog, depending on the stellar mass, the redshift, and the classification, we can assign a unique AGN. So once we have done that, basically most of the work is done. We just have to correct for Compton-Tick AGN, which are of course not included in this kind of work. We do it using the results by WEDA, so that give us the Compton-Tick fraction as a function of both luminosity and redshift, which is shown here on the red, on the right plot. And we also need to include black hole masses. So this is the only part of the mock that is theoretical, because all the rest is based on empirical relation. And so to assign black hole masses, we are using actually the continuity equation. This means that you follow the growth of both the galaxy and the black hole through time. And so depending on the stellar mass, you will assign a black hole mass at the redshift, so at the position of the galaxy. And this is based on a work that is ongoing by Roberts and Francesco Shankar. So once we have that, we need to create our SCD. To construct our SCD, we need, first of all, to UV luminosity. And we derive that using the empirical relation by Lusso that connects X-ray luminosity to 2500 luminosity. And then we need to assign an optical type, so type 1, type 2. And of course, once you know the type, you need to assign also an extinction value, so an AB minus B. We do that following the prescription by Merloni based on the cosmic sample. So you have this, the fraction of type 2 AGN as a function of both redshift and luminosity. And on the right, you see distribution of AB minus V for type 1, type 2. So we just randomly pick from this distribution once we decide which type is the object. So we build our SCD. Just it's worth to mention that we are not assigning a single SCD for type 1 and a single SCD for type 2, and then changing just the normalization and the extinction. But we are following the approach by Matthew Temple that basically uses, we use his code, that is QSO Gen. Basically, we take a subsample of the sample that is using very bright quasars to just be sure that we have no host galaxy contamination. And we fit the colors of these objects using a combination of components. So the accretion disk, the torus, and then for type 1, we also have some parameters that take into account the broad lines. And then for type 2 AGN, we add the narrow lines. The advantage of this approach is that then you have this a posterior distribution that you see there. And so to each object, you can assign a different SCD because you can randomly pick from this combination of parameters. And in principle, you should be much better in reproducing the colors of AGN, because as you know, it's true that SCD of AGN are more or less the same, but then when you look at the colors, you have a wide spread. So in this way, you can more or less reproduce better the colors of AGN. So this is just an example of an AGN SCD, so where we are, you put actually everything together. There is the galaxy SCD, the AGN SCD, and the total one, and the filters we are actually considering for the moment. Okay, so now we have the AGN truth catalog. So this is the core of our simulation. Again, we have the physical properties and the magnitudes, the position. We only miss stars. But luckily enough, this work was done by another team. This is part of another in-kind contribution, enough in-kind contribution. So there is a simulation of a complete sample of Milky Way, Magellanic Cloud stars, and binaries done by the team led by Girardi, and the simulation is actually available. So we just took what they published, included in our simulation. And this leads us to our truth catalog. So as I say, this is a mock catalog. It's a static catalog, and it's, I mean, something you can use for everything. And for the moment, we are sharing to the collaboration a first run of a truth catalog, 24 square degree. We are still testing it. I mean, I have to say most of the tests are done. I have to say, I mean, I think 99% it's correct. Everything works, but we are still doing some testing the details because you know the devil is in the details. So if you want to download it and play with it, I mean, I'm not saying publish a paper, but if you want to play with it, you can download it. And maybe if you spot something, you can let us know. Just to assure you that things are working, these are just some plots. This is the log n log S X-ray. So you see it's the mock compared to the Chandrasekhar South, 7 megaseconds. Here you have the luminosity function, X-ray luminosity function, and things are, I mean, quite good. The same is in the optical. This is the B-band number counts, the B-band luminosity function, but we have checked many things, and it seems that everything works as it should. Okay, so now second step, we have to go from this truth catalog to the images. And as I say, there is a step in between that is variability because we need to add the time to the mock. So variability for the AGN, we have implemented the dumped random walk model with the code by Angelica. And I mean, this part of the work has been done in collaboration with the variability people. So in this model, both the damping time scale and the variability amplitude depends on three parameters, the rest frame lambda, the absolute magnitude, and the black hole mass. And we have implemented that for both type 1 and type 2. In fact, we know that also type 2 are varying. Of course, the amplitude is significantly lower, but the general shape is the same. For stars, we have implemented variability taken from the simulation I was talking about before. Not all the parameters needed to simulate variability were available in that simulation, so we interact a bit with the TDS people. So I think for the moment we have variability for long period variables, classical cepheids, and eclipse in binaries, and I think for our purpose it's enough. There might be some interest from their side to add something more specific. We will, in case, collaborate with them and see what we can. As I say, then we use this instant truth catalog together with the baseline. We are using the 3.0 baseline. So we basically have the cadence. The cadence is basically how the telescope will move, which band will observe, and the exposure time, and also the telescope specifics, and the seeing, the moon position, the field rotation. And so we simulate images, in particular 30-second images in the different bands. And for the moment, we have simulated one detector. So for people that are not familiar, the field of view has 189 detectors, and this is 10 square degree. So for the moment, we have simulated only one detector. And we have simulated the 3 years of Cosmos, which, however, corresponds to 10 years of the other deep drilling fields. As you know, Cosmos will be observed in the first 3 years, basically 20,000 times, as the rest of the deep drilling fields will be in the 10 years. For the moment, we are simulating only the first visit of each sequence. Again, if you're not familiar with the cadence, observations are taken in sequence or in each bands. So for the moment, we just simulate the first one. And so instead of 20,000 visits, we have 1,177 visits. This is not yet available to the collaboration, but because until we are not sure that the mock is 100% correct, we don't want to simulate much, and this is very time consuming, this simulation. But if you want to play with it, you want to help us testing, we are happy to share it with you. Okay, just some examples. These are the images, UGR, I, Z, and Y. So this is a zoom in. This is just a beautiful RGB image. This is the full one detector, 0.05 square degree, and the zoom in on 9 arc square. And this is, for example, a light curve, an input light curve with the LSST baseline. And these are the black dots. And you see the different images corresponding to the different position in the light curve. So this is part of this simulation we have done. Finally, I mean, the last step, it's just to reduce the data and analyze them, extract the photometry. So we have done that for the moment only on the single exposures and not on the quadding. But the plan, of course, is to do it also on the quadding. And just, I mean, to show you the things more or less work very well, actually. This is the comparison between the input flux, so the truth flux that we are inputting, compared to what we are extracting. So in particular, this is PSF flux. So the output of this, of course, does not depend on us. This is the LSST pipeline. So this is exactly what you will get once the data will be there. So there is PSF flux, for example. And as you see, for stars, this is, of course, quite well. But for galaxies and AGN, this is not the best you should use. There is a Calib flux, for example, that is a 12 arc second aperture flux that is working much better for AGN and galaxies. But for example, you will see that for galaxies, the best is to use this C model flux that is taking into account basically modelization of the morphology of the shape of the galaxy. But I mean, you see that we are getting what we are inputting. It is always a good result. And this is the final, I mean, what we are all looking for. So this is the input light curve. And now you see on top of that, the photometric point. And we are putting the PSF flux and the Calib flux. I think in this case, it's an AGN dominated source. So even the PSF flux are good. But this is what you will have in real life. So this is something you can use to test your codes and, I mean, everything. Okay, so just summarize. So we have created as an in-kind contribution an empirical AGILE, which is an empirical simulation pipeline to provide realistic LSST photometric data, including AGN. So the steps are the following. So we create a mock of a mock which includes galaxies, stars, and AGN. We attach to these light curves for AGN stars and SEDs for AGN and galaxies. Then we inject these sources in IMSIN, which simulate the images, and then we analyze these images with the official LSST pipeline. We plan to have a first official release in September, October of a small area. I mean, so for the mock catalog, I think this will stay the 24 square degree catalog that I already talked about. And we will have hopefully 1 square degree images, 3 years of Cosmos. Then we will have future releases. And here I think I wait for your input in the sense that our plan is to arrive to have full Cosmos, so full area and full visits of Cosmos. But we can proceed increasing the area or increasing the time, the years of the survey. So we will decide together what's best for your science case and what you want to do. So if you tell me, I don't know, to test what I have to do, I need at least 2 square degree. Maybe the second release will be on 3 square degree, 3 years. Otherwise, we will stay on 1 square degree and we will go to 5 years or 10 years. So this is absolutely up to you. This is part of it in kind. This means it's done for you to use it and to get ready for LSST. So for people that did other business, come back. I'm going to tell you exactly what you will get. So there will be 3 kinds of products that we will share. So the truth products, so these are basically mocks. So we will share the mock catalog, the light curves, and the SEDs. So you will have a static catalog, and then to each object you will have attached a light curve and an SED. Then we will share, of course, the images, both the single epoch and the deep coads. And then the final product will be the photometric catalog. So we will have the source tables, the co-added source tables, and also the DIA objects. And of course, you will have also a table that allow you to cross-correlate the truth catalog to the source catalog. I think that's it. Do I have 1 minute or am I late? Because so we have a demo. I don't know if I will be able to do it. So we created a Jupyter notebook to play a bit with the data. It's you can actually get it from this directory, that is project in the science platform. It is open to everybody. Okay, so you go to project Agile enough demo and demo, and I open it, but maybe you close the. No, I don't know. Can you help me? Yeah, this one, Chrome. Ah, yes. Okay. So I have it open here just to very quickly. I mean, it's not really to show anything, just to show, to teach you how to play with the data. Okay. It's like the notebook of DP0 if you're familiar with that. So there are some, like you start with like truth catalog. For example, you can query all the columns of the truth catalog. You can do some plots. You can, for example, select AGN and then plot them in Reindeck. Then divide in passive and star forming and plot a star formation rate versus stellar mass of the AGN host, and so on. I mean, you just to show you how to play with the data and not just give a catalog that you have to understand the columns, so you will be completely lost. So you can do number counts. You can ask the CD of a given object. This is for the mock. You can ask, for example, the input light curve with the LSST baseline. And then there is also the part with the simulated images. So, for example, you can query all the images from Cosmos in R band. You will have a number of observational ID. And then you can query this one of the ID that you got, and you select a given detector, and you will see the image. You can also highlight an object that you know is an AGN and it's your favorite object, and so on. You can extract the source catalog from this image, so you will have the source catalog. You can also ask for the truth catalog corresponding to that image, and then you can match them, of course, so that you will have the input, so the physical properties that were put in input and the output. And for example, you can compare, as I show you, some flux, input flux versus output flux. This is the PSF flux that I show. And this is, for example, the light curve. I mean, in this demo, there are not so many images as I have. I mean, for the light curve I show you, that was more beautiful, but you can see the real photometric points compared to the input light curve. So this is something we will update. Adding new things is just, I mean, to help people not be too lost with too many columns, too many files, and so on. So I really hope you will use it. Thanks.
Questions? Yeah.
Thank you for the talk. I think what you're doing is tremendous value. So first question is, are you going to planning on hosting all your income contribution data on the LSD data cloud?
I was pushing that a lot because it's a lot of data, so we cannot really share it. I mean, we cannot host it on our own servers. So the idea that they are discussing is to make it available through the LSST platform, so like the DP0. So this would be another DP0, but this is still not decided. So yes, it's a discussion. Yeah. So I mean, more people require that. More likely, sorry. More likely we will obtain it.
How can we push to make that happen? Like from us, what do we need to do to push it?
I mean, Angelica was telling me that there was. I mean, that there was. Do you want to say? Maybe you know better. I mean, there was some discussion in the.
you so much. Vincenzo Petrieca, as we already heard from Niel, is in the committee, Rubin Science user committee, and it was distributed the questionnaire for the users about the needs, and we emphasized the importance of the agile to be included as the part of the Rubin Science products. And it will be discussed this week at the Rubin Science workshop, if anybody could join this discussion. And Igor Andreoni, I think, is the committee chair, and there will be a discussion about this, and maybe we will hear the feedback during this week. So thank you. Yeah, it will be very important.
Thank you for the very nice catalog, and I'm really waiting for the data. So could you comment on why the PSF flux of your AGNs are also underestimated compared to truth value?
Yes, because I mean, unless you have a quasar, you have host galaxy contamination. So when you extract the flux, you have to take that into account. Yeah. Yeah, it depends on of course, but it depends also on the quasar luminosity. So most of this is a simulation, so there is no a flux cut. So most of these objects are really faint, very faint AGN, type 2 AGN, so these are galaxy dominated. And so when you integrate the flux, so yeah.
Other questions?
So a few things. How low did you go on black hole masses? Okay. And also whether it's possible to use Agile to simulate some other surveys other than LSST to put there like, I don't know, CTF type of um, images, the noise, the parameters to do with observatory.
So first question, the cut is made on stellar masses, because then black hole masses, we attach it to stellar masses, and I think it's down to 8, 10 to 8 for the stellar masses. So we are 10 to 8 or 10 to 8.5, so it should be complete down to 10 to 8.5. For the second question, I mean, of course, this is possible in the sense that you have this mock and you have the variability. So from there, you can add any kind of telescope, let's say, in between and simulate different kind of images. I'm not sure it's easy. I think it's another work, but if you have the parameters, or you have some software that is already taking into account all the parameters of the ZTF, for example, we can try. I mean, we can start from this. I mean, the nice thing about Agile is that like 3 blocks that can be completely separated. So we can take the first 2 blocks, so the mock plus variability, and then try to do the third part. But this, I mean, this requires person power, as Mara.
I was wondering whether you can, I don't know exactly how this step is done because you simulate the images, whether it's possible to inject the catalog onto real images that you already have, if you see what I mean.
This is, I think, something that is possible with the Rubin platform. I think you can take, yeah, but you have an LSST image, and then you can inject something more. I think this is possible in the ready for the LSST, and of course we can. This is much easier for us. If you have something specific you want to simulate, we just put it in and add it. But this is still LSST specific. So if you want to change telescope, so you have to, I mean, unless you have already a simulator that takes into account the specifics of that telescope, it's quite a lot of work to put all the details of the telescope.
I'm sorry we are very late, so I think we can have a coffee now and maybe take other questions for discussion later. Okay, coffee time.
presenter. So welcome back. Now we will start the AGN classification session. The first talk is given by Paula. So please.
Okay, thank you. Ooh. Can you hear me well? Yes. Okay, so today we'd like to tell you about what I've been doing recently, especially in the LSST broker, but also in other teams using machine learning to select agents. So this talk is divided into two parts. The first one is a more general review of variability and color-based agent classification, and then what are the lessons we have learned by classifying CTF data, particularly for AGN science. So the first part, as you may know, these are very old works that started doing selection of AGNs using color cuts. You can see here, this is for the SSS survey, and this is for near-infrared data. And normally in the past, people were doing just color cuts using different thresholds, and these thresholds were defined according to what people know about AGNs at the time. But we also know that AGNs are variable. We can combine AGNs, color variability from AGNs, and you can see of this work that 7% this week, where we see that AGNs with higher accretion rates tend to show lower amplitudes, and sources with longer mass, larger mass tend to have longer mass. So in principle, AGN selection with variability is very efficient in finding low mass and low Eddington rate candidates. So people also started doing color variability selection of AGNs just using thresholds, like you can see here, using the Sweater function in this very old work by Schmidt et al. 2010, where they use the amplitude and the power law of the structure function to select AGN candidates. And around the same time, this work by Bluter and Bloom using dumb random walk modeling, where they were separating quasars from other variable objects. But this is very traditional programming. Like, you are really biased by your knowledge of what is an AGN. So instead of doing this traditional programming where you define the thresholds, why not use something else like machine learning, where you let the machine learn what are the different thresholds that define an AGN. And in case you are not aware of machine learning applications, this is becoming very popular in the last years. You can see here, this is every paper that includes in the abstract the word AGN or quasar, machine learning and classification since the beginning of AGS. And you see that in the last years, we have an exponential growth. If you see also by variability, then you get this is a lower number, but still it's growing exponentially. Something very curious for me was to find that in early 90s, people were talking about AGN selection with variability in machine learning. So I went to see, okay, what are these papers? And I found this one that was already talking about selection of quasars and using artificial neural networks. So this is from the 90s. So I was 8 years old at this time. And I'm now doing machine learning for 8 years. So this has been around for a long time. So Normally, people use supervised learning to search for ATX. If you're not familiar with this, basically you have labels and attributes from a known sample of sources, let's say, but in our case, ATX. And then you have some algorithm that uses this information to separate ATX from the rest. And then you use this model to unlabel data and get. So this is the traditional way of doing machine learning. It's called supervised learning, and a few examples of this are random forests, artificial neural networks, and support vector machines. And you can see very early works using this in the 2010s, like this work that uses matching data and support vector machines to separate quasars from other variable objects like Johnson objects or error. Then also the work that Palanque using SDSS data and artificial neural networks to separate quasars from variable stars. And sorry for the self-promotion, but this is our work using Silla Quest data in 2019, where we use random forest at different colors and variability features. We identify that selection with variability is very efficient in finding luminosity agents. So here you have two examples of candidates that we follow. And here you have in red the regional spectrum, then in blue the only AGI component. And you can see that after removing those, you see this power law of AGNs. So variability selection is crucial in identifying these very low luminosity objects. And then this came up last year, the Asian Science Collaboration Data Challenge, that maybe we mentioned, where the by Weixiang, I think, yes, provided this very nice data set that is a collection of resolution, uh, a collection of SDSS data and other X-ray catalogs, and different teams tested different methods like random boosting, random forest, CNNs, etc. So you can see that this is becoming super popular. If you are not using this, I think you need to start because it's the future. Okay, but now what can I tell you about the CTF survey? What have we learned from for LSST science? So if you don't know about the CTF, this is a very nice survey that has been running since 2018. And it's nice because it has a very large camera with a field of view of 40 square degrees. So you have a very good cadence. Mostly every 2 nights when you have an observation in the G or the R. In the I one, you have access to the private data. But it's shallow. So the maximum depth is around 20.5 meters. But it's still great for radiant science because the data is amazing. And there are 3 flavors of data. So maybe people are more familiar with alert stream, where you have detections over the difference. So you have the science, the template, and then the difference. And whenever you have a 5 sigma detection, there is an alert. And this is collected by the brokers, and the brokers use the alert to classify the objects. But then you also have the data analysis that are the photometry, but over the science images. So all images, not only the 5 sigma detections here, but here's a photometry over the science image. That is a problem for extended objects. So the Likers tend to be kind of noisy, but they're complete. And then you have the fourth photometry that is over all the different images, not only the one with sigma detection, but the problem is you're limited to 1,500 objects per day. So it's not ideal for like classification of agents in massive numbers. And then brokers. So now Alerce is one of the Chilean brokers. There are 7 brokers in case you're not aware of it. And Alerce is the only one in the southern hemisphere. And we have been using CTF to learn how to classify LSST data. And more or less CTF is 10 times smaller than LSST, but it's still great to learn how to deal with alerts. And at the moment, we have in production. Is available for all the users. One is the SAM classifier, where you have a first early detection using only one alert. And in this case, Navi, variable star, asteroid, and both. But then we have the Likert classifier that allows you to have a much broader taxonomy. Oops, sorry. Because we have the whole Likert. So we have 15 classes in the alert stream, including 3 classes, agents of star, quasar, or dominator, and agent or host. This works because we are using several features. So we have around 152 features that is a combination of color, variability, and also morphology. And something very interesting is that we use the alert, so the alert, but also the non-detectors. And this is particularly useful to detect transient because you know that the source was there before. And here are the results, particularly for AGNs. So you see the cognition metrics. This was optimized for AGNs because I did this model, so I love AGNs, so that's why it works. Maybe not so much for the other classes, but AGNs. And then here you see the numbers that we have classified at the moment of the publication. And here's the sky distribution of AGN candidates and the density. So here you can see, I don't know if you can read the numbers here, but it's between 2 and 22. So we are finding very small numbers, it's the density per square degree. And we know that we find more objects. Why we are not finding these objects is because the alerts are not great for low amplitude variations. So we need to use other data sets. And in particular, if you want to have complete samples, you can go to the data release. But the problem with the data release is this. So this is an example of a non-variable galaxy. So all non-variable objects will look variable in the data release. So please take this into account when writing papers. Don't use data release likers to measure variability. It's good for classification, but if you want to do intrinsic variability studies, go for high redshift. Don't use data releases for local agents. Because you have. So this is a non-variable galaxy and a star, AGN, transient. You can see this little pair here, and variable stars. But we still managed to classify this data. You can see here the taxonomy now is different because we have the whole data, so we cannot just have variable. We included the non-variable galaxy, non-variable stars. Then the taxonomy is quite similar to the alerts, but instead now we have low redshift, mid redshift, and high redshift instead of a cut in the luminosity. And why this works is because we have a combination of not only the traditional features that people use for AGN classification. If you see, for instance, here, the excess bias that is typically used for AGNs, all the galaxies are variable. So galaxies and AGNs have the same distribution. That's a problem if you want to classify variable objects. But then if you use more sophisticated methods, the Mexican had code that Patricia developed more than 10 years ago, you can separate well the different classes. Also the same with the time scale of the time random walk. So for galaxies and stars, you only measure the time scale of the cadence, while for AGN, you measure the intrinsic values. And here are the results. So again, confusion metrics. In this case, we missed several low redshift AGNs as non-variable galaxies, but this is because the Likers are super noisy, so you lose all the low amplitude candidates. And here's the distribution of density. So now we have numbers that are closer to what we will expect for the depth of, so around 32 AGNs per square degree, which is great considering that the data is super ugly. But still, this is not excellent, so we can do more. The problem with alerts is that they are incomplete, and the data release likers are noisy. So what can you do? You can use the force photometric, but that is very limited. If you use the CTF service for force photometry, you're limited to 1,500 objects per day. That is terrible. So what can you do? You can invest a lot of time and money and make your own force photometry. And this is what we have been doing with Patricia, Paulina, and several people. We have downloaded all the images in the footprint of Formos, so the overlap between Formos and Stitch. And this one is in preparation, so we hope to release it soon. And here you can see a comparison of the same object, alert, data release, and force photometry. The quality of the force photometry photometry is very good. And we are using apertures of 4 arc seconds measured over the different images. So we remove the problem of the whole. And here, I hope you can see some of the features. So here, you have non-variable stars. In red, you have the p-var, so the probability variable for the data list, and then in blue for the force multiplier. You see that now the non-variable stars are non-variable. The same for the non-variable. So here you have what you will measure for AGNs using the data release in pink and force photometry in blue. So now we can recover very well the time scale of the variation because we remove this variability that is associated to the variations in the sky conditions. And here are the results. So we use the same taxonomy, it's just the data is different. And now we are finding around 30 AGNs per square feet. So here we are removing some misclassifications from the data analysis. And this is a comparison of the results from our own source automation and the data release. And you see that now we are finding more sources as AGNs that were classified as non-variable galaxies by the data release. So we are finally finding these low amplitude variations in local galaxies. Okay, so what can we discover with all these models? So it's nice to have models, but then you need to do science. So in 2022, we started a campaign to follow up that were selected from the alerts secretary, and then this was published. This first paper in 2022, and then a second paper in 2023. And in total, we confirmed around 30 candidates. This was led by Elena Lopez Navas, and at Universidad de Valparaíso. And recently, we are working with Santiago Bernal and Patricia Revalo and collaborators in defining how successful is the selection of AGNs in low mass galaxies with variability. I don't know if you read this very nice paper by Ricardo Arcodía, who was telling that most of the candidates in low mass galaxies don't have X-ray counterparts. Well, in our case, that's not the case. Oh, I'm sorry, you cannot read in the slides you can see. We are finding X-ray counterparts in data release 1 from Iracema for around 70% of the candidates in the same area of the city. So the agents are there, just that you need to use more sophisticated techniques to identify them properly. And here you see a table of the candidates and the confirmation. So we are not able to confirm all of the candidates because not all of them have spectra or X-ray data. But whenever we have access to a spectra, at the time we confirm the candidate. So this is telling us that it's very successful in terms of purity, not complete, of course, because this is a very complete selection. Then, I don't know if you read this press release that was published a month ago at ESO, where we showed the discovery of this source that we believe it could be a newborn agent that's just awakening, or a very exotic transmitter that we haven't seen before. This was discovered using alert frames. It was the first alert was in 2019 summer, and then we started a follow-up campaign and of the source in the BPT diagram. So it used to be classified as star-forming Lamos and composite by SFS, but now it's clear AGN according to the BPT diagram. But we haven't seen broad lines yet. And then in February, it started showing X-ray emission. So this is in press now. I hope the final paper will come soon. But we have so I invite you to see the talk this afternoon, I think this session as well, and by Patty and Jorge, where we present all the interesting candidates we're finding. Then we go beyond supervised classification. Because supervised classification is great, but the problem is you're also biased by your training. If you want to find very interesting objects, maybe you can use other techniques, like for instance, anomaly detection. So anomaly detection is very useful to identify sources that you don't know exist. For instance, change look AGN. So in this paper by Superlag 2021, the change look AGN candidates are outliers with respect to the general distribution of AGNs. So we Okay, let's try using anomaly detection to find. And we did that using variational autoencoders. So these models are very nice because we can have two data products from them. The first one is a latent distribution that is like a compressor of your input data. And then from this, you can do reconstruction. And you can do reconstructions because this latent space is not a fixed vector, it's a probability distribution. So yeah, then you can perturbate your latent space a little bit and generate several reconstructions. And we use this first to do something called out of distribution anomaly detection, where you can identify anomalies like this, where you have a source that is normal, and then suddenly it's not normal, and then it's back. So in this case, what we can use is the error of the reconstruction. So we use this to reconstruct Likers for more than 200,000 from the PDF release 11. And here you can see that we decided to impose a threshold at 3 to identify a source of. But then we also use the latent space as a set of attributes, and then an isolation forest model that is very typical for anomaly, and define a threshold that allow us to have candidates at 2%. So these are the candidates we found around 9,000 anomalies, but unfortunately most of them were problems in the data. And this is common. This is a common problem when you deal with images which are not like perfect like we expect to have from LSST. Have ghosts or reflections in the camera, but also these classifications in the parent catalogs we were using. So we were using Miliquas, but Miliquas had several ISOs and CDs. So you have to be careful when using Miliquas. And then we clean all the contaminants, and we ended up with a sample of 75 candidates. We're now in the process of combining optical spectrum with Rosita data to confirm the nature of these candidates. But we know from private communication with other teams, like the work led by Rani, that there are several sources in common with other selections. So we hope that several of these candidates would be, in fact, changing. Okay, and this is a spoiler for tomorrow. So what should we expect for LSST? So I know the meta will present this tomorrow, so I won't say much, but just to let you know that this is coming tomorrow. We had been using BST data to test what we'll expect for LSST data depth. So with BST, we can reach 23.5 magnitudes, and this was presented in a paper led by Demetra in 2021. Here you see a comparison with Sandra Legacy survey, and here with eRosita. So, particularly for eRosita, this is an all-sky survey. It's very interesting to see that we can reach many, many more sources using BST, and we will hope to see this for us. But the meta will tell you more about this tomorrow. So yeah, that was it. So in summary, machine learning is great to find agents, but you need to be careful with the data you're using. If you want to find very complex samples, please use different data sets, not only the layers or the force photometry data. And for the case of LSST, we expect that this will be mitigated, these differences in the different populations we find, but it won't be perfect. So still, we will need to combine the different sets. So I would like to combine data sets.
Paula, any question?
Paula, when you were showing the effects that are on the images that are creating some problem in the classification, many of the catalogs have flags that are indicating the quality of data. Can you A, avoid those data, or B, learn from them using the flag in addition to everything?
So yeah, the flag is only useful to identify problems in the pipeline, but not these kind of problems that are very particular for a given region of CCD. Yeah, we expected to eliminate all these biases when using the cat flags.
Also because usually there is a sort of a binary information. So you know, machine learning could not really learn features.
I do not know, but I know that our service like when you have 20 flags and every flag has a different meaning. It is still binary, but you can reconstruct the history of the data using the flag. So in principle, you could recognize when order of, but okay.
But in principle, the lesson we learn from the machine the lesson we learn from machine learning is that should be mostly data driven. So all this kind of information should be completely avoided concerning machine learning. Another question, just one. I don't know which is. Please.
Maybe mine is simple. Once PhD student in our institute wants to do search for AGN using advanced machine learning, but without variability, only including optical, X-ray, and infrared. Do you think it still makes sense or no?
Yeah, that's a very good point. So we have tested without variability. You still find the bluest quake. But if you want like custom limited agents, then you need variability, because the colors are dominated by the colors. So it will be identified as type of galaxy or galaxy. But for classical pointers, using color cut is still great.
Sorry, we don't have too much time for other questions, so we have to move forward. Please, thank again, Paula. Ivano.
Hello everyone, I'm Ivano Saccheo, a student at the University of, and I'm currently working on selecting AGN with machine learning. Particularly, I'm interested in high redshift AGN, but I'm moving towards selecting the AGN population as a whole. So let me start by saying that in this presentation, I will refer to high redshift AGN as those sources with a redshift above 2.5, whether the proper threshold to consider an AGN as a high redshift AGN may be debatable, especially nowadays, but nevertheless, I think that these sources are still quite interesting to study. All because, as you can see from this plot, these sources are very close to the peak of neutron activity and black hole, and that they are ideal to study the IBN of evolution scenario. Also because by reflection effects, you are likely to select in this redshift range only the intrinsically most luminous sources, and thus the sources where you expect the outflows to be most powerful. Also, the feedback mechanism needed to be at its best. Luckily, from the LST survey, we expect to find to detect more than 2.5 million of sources in a wide, fast survey. So the sample that I use, I think most of you are familiar with it, and Niel and Paula already talked about it. It is the data challenge sample, and it was assembled by the people in the unit, the LST data science group, to mimic the features that will be available once Rubin LSST starts its operation. So basically, for you who are not very familiar with the sample, it has it has data in a 6 optical bands, the same as that the LST. And for all these objects, you have multiple detections and detection multiple epochs. So we have light curves for all these sources, and from these light curves, they extracted more than 300 variability features. And the catalog contains three kind of objects divided into stars, galaxies, and AGN, with more or less 140,000 sources, each of them having a light curve. In particular, the AGILE subsample is composed by more than 30,000 AGN spectroscopically selected from the FDSS 82 or detected in X-ray fields. The sample is mostly composed by bright type 1 quasars with less than 0.1% of the sources that are low redshift at type 2 AGN. Important for my study is that 6% of the AGN in the sample are what I call high redshift AGN, in the sense that they have a redshift which is above 2.8. Now, this threshold that I put to select an AGN as a high redshift AGN is rather arbitrary, and it is more or less a compromise between to have a high enough threshold to classify an AGN as high redshift AGN, but also to achieve good results in the sample that I was using. Now, the work that I was doing was to select the AGN above this redshift threshold, and I use this very simple pipeline composed by two classifiers. The first one actually relies on the model by and collaborators, which found the best solution and the best subset of features necessary to distinguish between stars, galaxies, and AGN, while I train a second classifier, which is to separate between below and above threshold. And then we test the full pipeline, we run the samples over the first classifier, and then sources which are recognized AGN goes over to the second classifier, and then you get your final selection. So we tested very simple, several simple supervised classifiers that are common for this kind of classification task. So we use both ensemble methods like random forest and boost, but we also support vector machine. So the classical method that also Paula talked about, and for the sake of also using the images that were available for the sample, we did a very simple actually convolutional network, and we try also this kind of classifier. So we can look at the results that we got for the final classifier, which is the sum of the two. And first of all, we see that actually there is quite a spread in the performance of the different classifiers, with the gradient boosted one providing overall the best performances, and which is in agreement with also what Ricci and collaborators found. And also another interesting point is that the convolutional neural network, despite having more information to deal with, because it also can extract information from images, is the one that is the worst result, more or less. And it is because the images that we were inputting were not needed to have the resolution to provide actual useful information. In the best case, they were just adding noise to the other features that we were inputting. So we can have a look at the feature importance for the second classifier, the one which is devoted to distinguishing between low and high quasars. And of course, as expected, we see that actually the most important features to computer is the one related to the multi-wavelength data. And you see that the colors are the most important feature that we have, which is not what you get from the first classifier, the one to distinguish between AGN and galaxy and stars, where a lot of features that are relevant for the classification are actually variability features, as found by Savic, but also by Demetra, and you will hear from her, I'm sure, more about the importance of variability in recognizing AGN. That's also Paula said a few minutes ago. Having a look at the results of the full pipeline, we see that since the first classifier actually is providing very good results, and so we are actually thanks to the Savage results, all the AGN from separating them from stars and galaxies, even if we have a few contaminants in the, let's say, high redshift quasars, so quasars that are recognized as high redshift but are not, they still belong to the population. And in the same way, high redshift AGN, which are not selected as high redshift, are still labeled as AGN. By looking at the distribution of false positives and false negatives, we see that there is a peak which is within is very close to the threshold that we divide the sample into low and high redshift, and this is basically telling us that the information that to the system is not sufficient alone to derive and to distinguish between redshifts that are less than 0.2 and let's say even if we want to increase the precision at cost of losing some of high redshift AGN, we see that basically we get rid of all the very low redshift contaminants, but we still have quite a lot of contaminants at redshift, which is 2.6 and above, but still below 2.8. Now, a few points about this analysis. So, and the sample that I was using. As I say, the sample is mainly composed by luminous type 1 AGN. So it is not representative of the whole population AGN. And also the parent sample, for the sake of having a more or less balanced number of sources in the different classes, did not take into account the true space density of the sources. So we expect way more galaxies than AGN, which is not what is present in the sample. So while the sample is valuable to test the performances of the different classifiers and also to understand which are the key features to be plotted to construct and derive these classifiers, the numbers that you get about the completeness and the purity are not necessarily reliable because the sample itself is not complete. So to try to overcome this problem, we are thinking about using the photometric catalog that you heard about the Angela Bongiorno talk a while ago. Of course, now, so of course, it's a catalog, so it is done with simulated data, and the first thing that we want to do is to assess that its performances are comparable with one that we get from observed data. In the sense that if we start from a sample taken from the mock catalog, applying some observational counts which are similar to a real observed sample, we get similar results when we test our classifiers. To this end, we are still using specify the mock catalog at the level of the truth catalog, the photometric catalog, because Angela said we don't have the full images for the full cadence. Yeah. So we took one square degree simulation, and we apply a very simple flux limited selection by specifically requiring each source to be detectable in each of the 6 LST bands in one single visit of 30 seconds. And this left us with more than 10,000 galaxies and 200, more than 250 type 1 AGN and also 200 type 2 AGN. By the way, we're not taking into account in this pattern. And this is very interesting because this cut leaves us with a sample which is actually very similar to the one used in the Metra work in 2021 using the light from VST. Did the X-ray luminosity of our sample, the mock catalog, and compare it with the sample by the Metra de Chico, we see that the distribution is quite similar. And part of the time, we remove sources of luminosity, X-ray luminosity below 10 to 43, so that we get a comparable number of sources in for the type 1 AGN. So as a next step, we extracted from the mock catalog light course the magnitudes with the cadence, which is exactly the same the one used by the Metra and the VST monitoring of the cosmos field. And we computed the same set of variability feature. Here I show just a couple of the distribution of these variability features for AGN and galaxies, both from the mock. And then what we did, train the classifier, the sample by the Metra, and then apply it blindly on this subset of the mock sample. We want to test our results against the one obtained by the meta to sort of validate the mock. The meta obtained this very good result with a completeness of above 4% and a is close to 1. In our case, assuming the same parent sample, so with just 1,000 stars and 1 galaxies in addition to the 20 more than 200 type 1 AGN, we get slightly result, but still very comparable, completeness of 0.91 and a precision which is close to 1, even though it is not as high as the one covered by the metra. What we found also is that if we include the full parent sample, so if we don't our parent sample to just 1,000 stars and 1,000 galaxies, that we get a drop in the precision that we get, because of course, given a fraction of sources that of an active galaxy that is classified as AGN, it makes a difference if you are inputting just 1,000 galaxies in your test sample or the galaxies in real numbers, so more than 10,000. And so our precision dropped to 91%. So next step that was rather than simulate the light curve with a LST cadence, we was to take the Cosmos cadence for LST. So still to the 3 years span. So we went from 54 epochs to more than 250 epochs. We just simulated the first visit for each night, the Cosmos baseline. In this case, we did the same experiment, the variability features, and then use the classifier train to the meta and apply it blindly on this new sample with this new cadence. We have a boost in the performance in the precision, let's say, and basically all recognized AGN are in AGN. We see that actually we are missing some of the sources that we previously as AGN. Our is a below the one that used. This might be because we are seeing that some of the variability features that we are computing with this new cadence are not always consistent with the one that we computed with the VST cadence, and we are investigating this aspect now. So, as a final test, of course, we use the full 6 bands available in LST and cadence with the Cosmos cadence. In this case, of course, since we don't have the meta sample full 6 bands, we are performing training and testing on the mock catalog. So our results can be, of course, a little biased and over optimistic. But we see that, of course, we get a very much better recall, making use of all the information from the full 6 bands, and also precision, which is equal to 1. But of course, I must specify that there is a serious risk that we are overfitting. We are dealing with a simulated. But the goal of this exercise is actually what to do in the end is to derive starting from a complete sample, because the catalog is complete, what to the best of our abilities. We want to derive a selection function for both the type 1 AGN and the high-redshift AGN. And our next step is actually to use the data challenge sample to train the classifier rather than meta sample, because the data challenge has features that are LST-like, so we can fully exploit the full information that we have. So here I leave you with the summary, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, any questions?
Thanks. This is super interesting. Quick question. How are you dealing with the imbalance of the data?
I remember Paula suggested me to use the imbalance, but we actually, I made use of the imbalance learning. I'm oversampling like for the redshift quasars, they have way less than the normal quasar, and I'm oversampling them. I'm dealing with I took your suggestion. It was like, yeah,
sampling with the risk of introducing some bias into the. Okay. One more question.
If I understood correctly, your problem with you're dealing with a sample which is dominated by galaxies, is your contamination by the galaxies to the IGN, right? That lowers performance. But did you tried in the last step to use the fact that the variability should be correlated among bands? Because that should clean out your sample quite a bit.
in our final test, let's say, so this one, we see we are using the exact name of, we are using the full parent sample. So we are using the full 10,000 galaxies, but still, as you can see, we recover the alien population with extreme precision. So yes, in this case, we are not misclassifying any galaxy as an AGN, but still, I mean, this is done, trained and tested on the mock data. So we need to assess it with some real observation that will come from the data challenge sample.
Okay, let's thank again Ivano. Barbara, please.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Barbara Balmaverde, and I'm going to present you this work that has been developed here at the Observatory of Torino with Alessandro Capetti. So, as you know, radio galaxies are objects, subset of AGN, in which accretion onto the supermassive black holes powers these beautiful, spectacular radio jets and lobes that extends for kiloparsec or megaparsec distances. This emission is produced by relativistic charged particle through synchrotron emission. They are good targets to explore the high redshift universe, mainly for two reasons. Because they are beacons to find protocluster of galaxies, because as predicted by simulations and as observed, they usually are hosted in overdensity of galaxies. Another reason is that they are among the most massive galaxies in the universe and are thought to be progenitors of the massive elliptical galaxies we observe today. However, high-redshift radio galaxies are rare objects and are hard to find. The reason is because they are bright in radio, but they are very faint in optical UV and UV infrared. And also for these reasons, the luminosity function of radio galaxies is basically unconstrained above redshift 3. Because we don't have many known radio galaxies above these redshifts. For comparison, with redshift above 4, we have only a handful of galaxies just discovered in serendipitous way. Many of these galaxies have been found using possibly biased methods. For example, searching for ultra-steep spectrum, ultra-steep sources. These are sources in which the radio slope is steep, and the slope of the spectrum in radio is lower than -1.3. So this could introduce some bias, and for this we cannot use the radio galaxies we already know, just for example, to explore the evolutionary redshift or to measure the luminosity function. This value of for selecting ultra-steep spectrum was motivated by the fact that in 2000 years, apparently there was a relation between the spectral index and the redshift. And all of the known galaxies at that times at high redshift have their ultra-steep sources. galaxies. But we need a large sample of high redshift radio galaxies selected in an unbiased way. So, how high redshift radio galaxies appear, for example, in radio? This is a collection of radio images from the VLSS survey at 3 GHz with a resolution of 2.5 arcsec of 10 known radio galaxies at a redshift around 4. So as you can see, many of them are located, are small, very small. The field of view is 40 arcsec. Some of them shows two separate sources. So this means that we cannot make a simple cross match of radio and optical catalogs because we could lose many sources in which the position of a nucleus is between the bright radio source. How they appear in optical? In optical, they are very faint. This is an histogram of radio galaxies at redshift 2.3 in the band, and the typical magnitude are 2023. So if you want to go at redshift, for example, of 4, we are talking about magnitudes of 24, 25, or even 26 magnitudes in the R band. So we need and large optical surveys. Sloan and Panzer are not deep enough. And we need also no sky radio survey, possibly at low frequencies, just to map gigahertz emission that is moved at lower frequencies at a redshift. So for these reasons, we started from the TGSS survey catalog, which is a catalog which is a survey performed with GMRT, is a radio telescope in India, with a resolution of 25 sec. And we adopted the threshold of 0.3 Jansky, and we improved the radio position using the VLSS that has a resolution of 2.5. Then we cross-matched the radio position, considering also the midpoints in case we detect more than one sources. We cross-matched it with the available now that are available now optical catalogs. So the Hyper Supreme camera strategic program from Subaru, and we used also KIDS, Kilo Degree Survey catalogs. Both of the survey covers an area of about 1,500 degrees squares, and observing Subaru in 5 filters from G to Y, KIDS in 4 filters starting from U, and they reach a depth of the order of 25-26 miles in our band. So enough for our purpose. We decided to adopt the Dropouts technique. This is a classical method developed in the 2000 years that consists in searching for a drop in the UV rest frame spectrum due to the absorption of hydrogen clouds between us and the source. These drops happens at wavelength lower than the Lyman line, so lower than 1216 Armstrong, and appears at different bands according to the redshift of the source. For example, G clouds are sources in which we observe this dropped in the G band and corresponds to sources that has a redshift of the order of 4. And these objects have a large G minus course. In the same way, objects that as shows dropped in the R band are objects at the redshift around 5 and have a large R minus C colors, and they are called R dropouts, and so on. So we could define G, R, E, C, Y dropouts, searching for progressively more distant sources. But what about photometric redshifts? in the catalogs, we have also information about the photometric redshifts. In particular, in the Subaru catalog, we have three different photometric redshifts calculated in different codes, three different codes. This is an example for the confirmed radio galaxies at redshift 4.7 from the Subaru collaboration. This source is clearly on our band group codes because it is completely undetected in the G and R band. Instead, it's very bright I, Z, and Y bands. This is Z. This is the radio image, the source is compact. And this is a free photoredshift of a catalog. Here in red, the red line is the spectroscopic redshift. So even if in this case one of these free photometric redshift is good, we decided not to trust so much on these photometric redshifts, and we decided to go on with using the Rookout technique. So we selected our candidates using color coded. So we selected G dropout sources and R dropout sources in these regions of the plane using this criteria. And we had other additional criteria. So we required that the points set in the regions also considering their uncertainties, so the error bars. We required cutting magnitudes, so just to select not too weak and not too bright objects. We discard extended sources like the low redshift galaxies, radio galaxies, and we gave a priority to the objects that has OI to Z value. So at the end, we obtain a list of candidates that we try to confirm spectroscopically. So we have already obtained 3 nights at MIT. The 3 nights are scheduled in October. We have already 20 G dropouts candidates, and this is our preliminary results. We have found 3 radio galaxies at redshift around 3.5. These are the radio images, these the optical images, and here which we detect the M alpha line. According to our first results, we have ultra spectrum. This seems to confirm that the selecting ultra steep spectrum is not representative of the radio galaxy, the entire population of galaxies. And radio images appear to be not so compact. This could be another selection bias in the sense that extended radio galaxies are more difficult to find because it is more difficult to locate the position of the nucleus, so to find the optical counterpart. What have you learned in preparation of LSST? With LSST, we could do this search study obviously better. First of all, we will have a more accurate photometry to be able to locate the position of our sources in the color plane with more precision. We have very low upper limits also. We will have also more accurate morphology estimation. So we will be able to discard extended objects. And also we will have information about variability that we can be used to separate contaminants as stars with respect to low shift galaxies and so on. We will be able to better select and improve the purity of our candidate sample. We expect to find in the area 1,000 routes redshift candidates and about 300 routes. And I leave you with summary conclusions to read. So for your attention.
Thank you, Barbara. Any question?
Very interesting. I was wondering if you could have some classification of these radio galaxies. Are these type 1, type 2, or these are, let's say, the old classification FR1, FR2s? Is there a trend with redshift, or is similar to what happens in the local universe?
Do you mean not in our candidates? You mean in general? So these radio galaxies in radio are mainly FRs, redshifts, but appears as you as I shown, small. Type 2 or type 1. Sometimes they one probably quasars. So we are looking for the galaxies. So we are looking for not to get line of sight. Uh, this is the reason why the nucleus is so weak. So we are looking for apparently very weak sources um, in massive elliptical galaxies. So this is our what we know of these sources.
Thanks. Out of curiosity, the objects that you confirmed was the photo Z in the green. What you find in that aspect, the photo Z was much higher.
I'll be sincere, I have to check. I don't remember.
Just one more question.
So thank you. So what I'm curious about the extended source you screwed in this work. How many of them? And would it be possible that the kind of like multiple image coming from the lensing maybe will be to use it for other studies? Thank you.
Meaning in multiple sources in optical and radio images. Okay. Yes, we have noticed that at lower magnitudes, so many bright objects, the brightest objects, for example, are in many cases extended, probably likely because they are low redshift radio galaxies. The redshift mainly maybe true. Seeing the Balmaverde, we are selecting small sources. We are slightly
Okay, thank you. Let's thank again Patricia.
Okay, thank you. So, thank you. Hey, I'm Patricia Arevalo, de Valparaíso in Chile, and I wanted to tell you about this work that we used, where we used the Alerce broker in a practical sense to get a scientific result. So this is the result. It's finding a newborn AGN in a star-forming galaxy. Newborn, it just means that the activity switched on during our lifetimes, not that the black hole just appeared. And the fact that it's a star-forming galaxy is the original classification. And we wanted to find AGN activity in a galaxy that had previous spectra and that had been classified as something not an AGN. Okay. So this is for the definition. It's used for the design of our method. That we will consider type 1 AGN as those that have broad emission lines in the optical spectrum. That's the definition. They also tend to have blue continuum component. So this is the direct view of the nuclear region, which would be the accretion disk
region. And the important thing to remember is that because we have a direct view of this very compact, very energetic region, this region varies. Okay, so type 1 AGN vary in those flats. So that gives us a clue of how to find. So this was our test, how to find type 1 AGN that just switched on. And just, I mean, it switched on since the last optical spectrum was taken. So we start from a sample of galaxies that did not have an AGN. Look which ones of those have changed type, and we have found the AGN. To do this, we gathered this catalog of mainly or totally SDSS spectra classifications of objects that are classified as a galaxy, but not as an active galaxy of any type. And their spectra should not have broad lines, but we just take this information from catalogs because we don't want to look at millions of spectra. And all the spectra have been taken a long time ago, between 10 and 20 years. Then, and this is the part, we cross-match these sets of coordinates to the objects that have been classified as type 1 AGN by the ALERTE light curve classifier that Paula described earlier. So this takes look into this in detail. And when we have this match, we have galaxies that 20 years ago had a spectrum of not an AGN and are currently varying like an AGN. And then we take a confirmation spectrum and see whether the galaxy has actually changed its optical classification. Okay, so to go into more detail of what I mean by currently selecting as type 1 AGN by yourself, I'll show you a bit of what Paula showed you before, but this is that we have currently the Secunda facility, and this is taking images of 3/4 of the sky every 3 days, produces science time. It has produced one template long time ago, which hasn't changed. And then when they take the difference, we find if anything changed, it appears in the difference image, and if that difference is 5 sigma above the noise, that triggers an alert, and this is what ALERTE sees. So with that input, the alert classifier says whether this alert is real and not bogus, whether a set of alerts starting from 6 is either transient, stochastic, or periodic, if it's stochastic, whether it's a laser or AGN, that is what we're looking for, and not a stellar object or a CW. So alerts it public classification of objects that have been classified recently as Blazar Quasar or AGN, and this is the sample that we cross with the existing public catalog of non-active galaxies. So, in this way, very easily, because the projects are public, we can take these 2-3 million galaxies with optical spectra that were not public. We don't have to look at all of those again. We cross-match those to the light curve classifier and find that only 68 are currently variable, and not just variable like a supernova went into the galaxy, but variable as a type 1 AGN. So that's a much more manageable number. We can go and take 68 spectrum check. We didn't do that. We looked at 18 because those were visible from the south where we have access to telescopes, and in the semester where we had time. And of the 18, this is the best I mean, this is the best result. So what I'm showing up here in the top panel is the original spectrum in green, where you see it has narrow emission lines, and they are continued. And the new spectrum that we took after it started showing alerts is the red one, where you can see very clearly broad H beta and broad H alpha. So if you look at it now, it won't be classified as a type 1 AGN, whereas before it was classified as a star-forming galaxy. In the other panels, you can see here you can see the detail of the modeling of the old spectrum and the new spectrum in the H beta and H alpha region, and you can see that before we didn't have any broad lines. Now the broad lines are consistent between H beta and H alpha, shift in width and in ratio, very normal. And in the bottom panel, you see the VBT diagram where the object was before in the VBT diagrams and where it is now. And within the errors, they are the same. So the narrow line region hasn't changed at all. It's just the broad line region that switched on and the continuum. So the continuum is also a little bit blue than it used to be. Okay, so that's the result for this one. Then we looked at archival data to see what it had been doing before. Because CTF only started here in 2017 by 2018, and these are the CTF libraries for this object, so you can see clearly large amplitudes variation. This is the G band and this is the R band. But in the past, for the past many years, there's data from the Catalina Transient Survey, real-time survey, and if you did that enough, you can see that it was more or less constant up to some point, and then it started steadily rising and then started developing flares. So it's not that it was on, then it switched off, and then it switched on again, at least not during these 15 years. This is when the SPSS spectrum was taken. This is when our spectrum was taken. So before it was like flat, non-ATN. Now it's firing and has an ATN type spectrum. And in the infrared, you can see this evolution. So this this date 55060 is over here, more or less when it started rising. And the color W1 minus W2 went from something typical of non-active galaxies towards this limit, where above this limit is almost certainly an ATN. So the mid-infrared color had also been rising steadily since it started brightening in the optical. So there's like further evidence that now it's an AGILE. We also have X-ray data from Rosita that shows that it's bright and variable in the X-rays in the last few years. Rosita was taking data. Unfortunately, we don't have a good upper limit from before when it wasn't active because there wasn't sufficient data, but we know that it wasn't brighter in the past than it was. Okay. So, and the flux is very normal. So the luminosity is to the it's a very normal AGN right now. Okay, so that was one example. This is a summary of these results. So in general, we can use the current optical variability in quiescent galaxies to find new AGN. So this is the test that we were running. So far, we found one. We didn't again at all the spectra. We looked at 18 and 68 candidates, so there's a couple more, maybe. But we just wanted to show that. And so this in particular has been bright for many years. Mid-infrared colors corroborate change of activity. The broadline region started shining, but the narrow line region still hasn't responded, and this is not strange because the narrow line region is a lot more extended. It can be a lot more extended than this time it has to travel so far in the last 14 years, which is like 5 6. Okay, then the narrow line region can be more extended than that. So that's not an issue. It might change to a VBT of AGN in the future, like something did, but it might not happen during our lifetime, okay, because the narrow line region may be kiloparsecs, and then we cannot wait. Okay. So from this experience, what can we expect from LSST, but using the exact same method? And bearing in mind that alerts is going to be a broker for LSST, so we're going to get the same time of classification, but for LSST data. So one question is, do all type 1 AGN that we know show TTF alerts? And for this, we collected the type 1 quasars from SDSS, published and characterized by Weixiang in 2022. So they all have SDSS optical spectra and all the characteristics. And we went and found of those, how many have shown at least one TTF alert. Most have shown, if they have one, they have more. And if they show alerts, they're almost certainly classified as AGN by the Raiteri classifier. So this is a good indication of what we could expect. And of the 750,000 AGN in this catalog, only 100,000 have shown alerts, even though they're all in the same area of the sky. And we could think, okay, maybe only 10% of non-AGN show alerts. But it's a very strong function of flux. So here I'm showing the histogram of the fraction of known AGN that have shown CTF alerts as a function of G-band magnitude. And you can see that up to magnitude of more or less 18 is a very high fraction, but then it drops very, very steeply. So the problem is the depth of CTF. Even if you get to magnitude 20 per epoch, more or less, when you reach magnitude 19, you stop finding the alert, okay? Because the amplitude of the variations is not that large. So it doesn't reach 100% because there's gaps between the CTF chips. So some known AGN fall in the gaps, and therefore they don't produce alert. But the gaps are at least 13% of the area, so that makes up for this not total completeness. Okay, but the bright AGN show alerts as long as they're bright enough. So this is therefore we can assume that of the parent sample, we could reasonably expect only to detect the 30% that are brighter if they had changed to AGN. And we were more or less blind to the rest, because even if they changed state, we wouldn't have seen it because they wouldn't produce an alert, and therefore alerts doesn't classify them. So this is the G-band magnitude distribution of these galaxies, the non-active galaxies. And clearly SDSS has different compilation of different surveys that had different depths and different designs. So it's not like a continuous distribution. We were capturing very well the first peak in the magnitude distribution. If we went a bit deeper, we wouldn't find many more. But if we managed to, with LSST, go 4 magnitudes deeper, then we would catch the second peak. And then we would have 3 times more galaxies to look for variability. So it's not a tenfold increase because this is the only parent sample we have. So for exactly the same method, we would not have a lot more candidates, but we would have 3 times more candidates. And the interesting thing is that if we plot these samples limited to magnitude 19, limited to magnitude 23 in redshift space, we go from the pink histogram to the cyan, the light blue histogram. So then we could use not only, I mean, we could use the same method not only for 3 times more galaxies, but also go quite a bit further in redshift. Not high redshift because it's quite non-active galaxies are not super bright, but a lot further. So that's the main difference of what we could do if we just use like the exact same method on the LST data with alert. Yes. So in summary, the first 2 points are more or less the same. We can still use current variability to look for new AGN activity. And already using CTF with its limited depth, we have found a few, but the CTF alerts are limited by optical magnitude. So from known AGN, we only get alerts for 100% at G-band magnitude of 19, 50%, yeah, 19 and a half, and only 10% at 20 and a half. So with LSST, we will effectively probe 3 times more inactive galaxies, and the redshift limit moves from 0.2 to 0.8 or 1, where we still have a few galaxies where we should be able to track the variability. And with that, I finish. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. Any questions?
Thank you. People often talk about the switched on AGN, but I was wondering what is your thoughts on the switched off AGN? In principle, if you apply the same technique, what challenges would you expect?
Thank you. So to apply a similar technique, we would have to look at the population of type 1 AGNs that stopped showing variability. And for once, we have to be super aware that we could not find variability in type 1s if they're fainter than 18 with CPF. Okay, that's one thing. And the other thing is that if we use alerts, alerts is only looking at alerts. So to be able to be visible to alerts, an object has to vary. So it's not useful for finding non-variable galaxies. But we have, like Paula explained before, produced a different classifier that doesn't use the alerts, but uses the data release or the phosphotometry light curves. And therefore, it does produce a class that is non-variable galaxy. So this is something that we want to do. Cross-match the type 1 AGN with the non-variable galaxies. Check that they are within the limit where we would expect to see variability in CTF data, then the spectra of those. And that would be a way to find something of AGN.
Patty, what type of host galaxy is the host of your object? Because I was thinking when you show the redshift 2 peaks, I believe the second peak is mostly elliptical dominated because it's the I don't remember what the sample was called for SDSS, but it was high redshift red galaxies or something like that.
Okay, so I don't know the morphological type of our galaxy. Like we have the image here, but it's not super clear. Oh, there it is. Yeah, I'm fuzzy. But AGN, I don't understand if this is a problem. I mean, maybe the local galaxies are going to be mostly spirals, and maybe the higher redshift are going to be mostly ellipticals. But
Just looking at your 2 peaks, then I just remember that second peak was a particular compound from SDSS, and it looked a certain type of galaxy. So I thought, hey, that's kind of interesting, but at the same time, unfortunately, it might be a little bit. It will just not be completely representative. Yeah.
yeah, that's true. So we all depend on what SDSS has decided to do with the different cycles. That's the original sample that we have. If we if we wait long enough, we could have lots more spectra from Foremost, but then we have a shorter time window for them to change, but we have a lot more after we get Foremost spectrum before LSST ends. So that could, yeah, lead to a different sample. I always forget about this. Yes.
Okay, so let's thank again Patricia. Do you want to continue or you are hungry? Okay, let's break for the lunch, and we will see here again at 2:15. Okay.